Hello, I'm Marina from the University of Georgia's Intensive English program. The writing task 1 on the IELTS can be hard, but I've created a simple format that you can use to help you write the essay to make sure it's organized while including all of the important information without including too many mechanical details. Now, this isn't the only way to write a writing task 1, but I've found that it's one of the best. So the first thing is to really look at your graph. Figure out what your graph is showing you. What does the x-axis show? What does the y-axis show? How is the graph measured? Is it measured in days, in millions or billions of dollars, in percentages? What years does the graph show? Is it all in the past and you need to be writing in the past tense? Or did it start in the past and continue to the present and you should use the present perfect? Or does it have some future tense on there too? Don't skip this step. I know you don't want us to waste any time, but it's really important that you get this right because it could really affect your score if you spend your entire essay writing it wrong. Once you figure out what the graph is about, then you're ready to write. Your first paragraph only needs to be a couple of sentences. You don't need to think about these writing tasks in the same way that you would academic essays for school, so they don't have to be 5-paragraph essays. In fact, your writing task will probably only be 3 paragraphs. So your first sentence needs to tell us what the graph is about. Just make sure that you don't copy the question prompt word for word, because if you do, then they're just going to cross it out. Use synonyms or reorganize your sentence to make it in your own words. So let's look at my example. For this line graph, my first sentence could be, the chart illustrates the unemployment rates in percentages from early 1993 to early 1999 for the United States and Japan. Notice that I changed some of my wording and my order from the sentence prompt. Your next sentence should be one sentence that states the overall trend of the graph. Now, this is where you want to focus on what happens from the beginning all the way into the end in just one sentence. So for our line graph, my overall trend statement could be something like this. While the U.S. experienced a downward trend throughout the time period, Japan's unemployment rate gradually increased. This sentence covers all of our graph in one concise sentence. And that's the end of your first paragraph. Now your second paragraph is where you're going to include the details. Again, you still need to be thinking about the big ideas of the graph and not one particular point. There might be one particular point, like a peak of a graph, that you feel like you should include, and that's okay, but don't tell us year for year what's happening. So you should write about 2 or 3 sentences telling us what happens at the beginning of your graph or in your first group of things, and then 2 or 3 sentences that tells us what happens at the end of your graph or about the second group of things. So for our line graph, I might write 2 to 3 sentences just talking about the United States, and then 2 or 3 sentences just talking about Japan, and then 1 or 2 sentences comparing the United States to Japan. Now, of course, this is going to be different depending on whether you have a line graph, a table, or a pie chart, but try to just think about the big ideas and write about your trends in steps. Now, if you need to add more words, because you have to write at least 150, this body paragraph is where you should put them. Don't add them to your introduction or your conclusion. You want to keep those concise and to the point. But your body paragraph, if you need to, is where you can add more words. So let's look at some sentences that I could include in my body paragraph. I could say, the U.S. had a high unemployment rate in March 1993 at just over 7%, but by March 1995, this had fallen to just under 5.5%. Or, Japan's unemployment rate exceeded that of the U.S. for the first time in our time period in late 1998 and continued to climb until the end of our graph in March 1999. Note that while my sentence does not focus on only one part, it does focus on the big ideas of the graph. And that's the end of your body paragraph. So your third and your final paragraph is going to be your conclusion. And again, it's not going to be very long. For your conclusion, you need to restate the overall trend statement from the first paragraph from your introduction. Of course, make sure you do this in different words. So again, in different words, tell us what happened from the beginning to the end. You could do this in 1 to 2 sentences, but again, you're thinking about the big ideas of the graph, not little details. So my concluding paragraph might be something like this. The U.S. and Japan started with greatly differing unemployment rates in March 1993. However, by March 1999, their unemployment rates were comparable to each other, being between 4 and 5%. And that's it. You did it. Now the final step is to leave a minute or two at the end of your writing prompt time to go back and read over what you wrote. This is where you need to change some words, add or take away a comma, or just proofread it and make sure that you didn't make any mistakes. If you find even one mistake, then this time was well spent because it will improve your score. And that's all. Then you're done. You can find my full answer to this writing prompt, as well as some other tips and other practice for your Writing Task 1 on our website at iep.uga.edu. Follow the tips in my last video and this format, and your Writing Task 1 band score is sure to improve. Good luck writing!